I fully support the UN global goals. Each and every one of them is really important, but for me, this one, reduced inequalities, is particularly important because giving everybody the best chance in life is so important wherever in the world you live. Everyone, but its consequences fall most heavily on the world's poorest and most marginalised groups. That means that women and girls suffer disproportionately. That's why the Scottish Government's Climate Justice Fund supports projects in sub-Saharan Africa which address some of the key issues facing women and girls. It's also why we're proud to support the Gender Action Plan of the UN's Framework Convention on Climate Change. It recognises the central role that women play in tackling climate change in their own communities, and it seeks to promote the participation of women in global decision-making on this issue. The fight against climate change is connected to the fight against gender inequality. So Scotland will continue to work with countries around the world to address these twin challenges. By doing so, we aim to play our part in creating a more equal, sustainable world.
The great problems of human rights, facing the whole human rights movement at them, is immigration and migration, and the fears, vastly exaggerated though we think they are, of immigration, that they've been whipped up by populists and have created a very, very unfriendly atmosphere in Europe and indeed in the country we're in now, by whipping up fears and getting people terribly scared, even though the relative movements are actually quite small. It's in Europe, so people talk about 1 or 2% of the population. It's not so massive, and yet it's been taken up, and nationalists everywhere are using this as a stick to push back against us all. Your party, your government, is not at all hostile to immigrants. It's quite the opposite, either from Europe or beyond. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about, at this time where sort of the drawbridge is being pulled up and walls are being built, or not built, what do you feel about that?
I'm happy to do that. Let me just briefly take on this issue of the term nationalism. My party wants Scotland to become an independent country, and therefore we are described as Scottish nationalists. I've never been very comfortable with the word nationalist, not because I am uncomfortable with what my party advocates or stands for. My discomfort comes from the fact that the word nationalist, that there is that one word in the English language that is used to describe different viewpoints on a very wide spectrum, from far-right racists, economic nationalists, through to what my party advocates, which is self-government for a country. It's not based on any considerations of ethnicity. Our view is anybody is welcome to come to Scotland. Where you come from doesn't matter. If you want to make Scotland your home, you are welcome, and we want you to make a contribution. it's not nationalism in the sense that many people understand that term nationalist from other parts of the world. And again, to come to Andrew's question, my party in a United Kingdom context is probably the most pro-immigration party of all. We are pro-immigration for two broad reasons. Firstly, I believe as a matter of principle that one of the greatest ways of fostering better understanding between different peoples and different countries, frankly, one of the best ways of promoting peace globally is to allow people to travel, to experience life in different countries, and to develop that greater understanding. So I'm a proponent in principle of freedom of movement and people experiencing different countries and different cultures. But there's also a practical reason for Scotland. Scotland is a country, and we're not unique in this sense, but the demographics of Scotland are quite challenging. Our birth rate is not growing at a fast enough rate. Our population is ageing, which is a good thing. People are living longer, But we face a situation in future that if we don't attract people to come and live in Scotland, our working age population may decline. It was in decline about 20 years ago, and migration from other parts of Europe reversed that. So if we suddenly pull up the drawbridge, we will damage our own economic interests. So we are pro-migration from a principled perspective, but also from a very practical perspective. And, we make that case very strongly. I wish more politicians in the UK, across Europe and across the world would make that case much more powerfully and strongly than they do.